You know, when you well and truly ball something up, when you make a total mess of a situation, you probably have the common decency to make yourself scarce. Get out the way a bit. Get out, just get out of everybody's sight when you truly, totally ballsed something up. Most of us have that sort of common decency. The Conservative Party, unfortunately, seem unable to recognise that they've made a complete and total horrendous mess of stuff, and have the sheer chutzpah to carry on popping up, pretending as if it wasn't them who dropped it, kind of thing. I'm referring to the Conservatives' social media messaging, which has been popping up on my feed. Now, normally I like to ignore these people because they're a dying party at this point and well bloody deserve to do so. But they've had the absolute temerity to pop up in my feed, and it's annoyed me. So I'm going to talk about it. So this is the Conservative Party's Twitter feed in this case. And it says, the Conservative Party is changing. No, you're not. You're going to remain betrayers like you have for your entire history. Let me give you an example. So this book is by Robert Harris. He was a senior advisor to Margaret Thatcher. And a few years ago, he wrote this history of the Conservative Party, in which he basically outlines that the entire history of the Conservative Party has been betraying its voters. I mean, from the 18th century onwards, from Corn Laws onwards, the history of the Conservative Party is promising things to its voter base and then betraying them once they are in office. It is in their DNA. These people are simply incapable of doing anything other than lying to you and betraying you the moment they get into office. Now, for my sins, I have to confess, I am a former Conservative. I used to work in Westminster in the old Conservative CCHQ in Smith Square. I worked for a couple of MPs, Michael Patello included. I've had dinner with Tory MPs in the House of Commons many times. I used to be part of that ecosystem. I do apologise. So I mean, I'm not attacking them from the left. I'm attacking them because they are the most left-wing party in the country. Their actions, especially all of the government, their actions have been completely and totally disgraceful. And how dare they pop up on my bloody timeline pretending like they have the slightest intention of fixing everything when they were the ones who caused these problems. So anyway, before I get too angry, let's just go through their bloody feed. Right. So what do we got at the top? Keir Starmer's immigration hypocrisy exposed. Oh, Keir Starmer's immigration hypocrisy, is it? You have campaigned on lowering immigration in every Conservative manifesto since the Second World War. And every time you've done the opposite. Every single time. Last time you got in, what was the immigration for the last few years of the last Conservative government? The last year was 1.4 million immigration. Before that, 1.2 was it? And then before that, 1.1 million. And then it wasn't much below it the year before that. You've let in millions of people since Brexit, and you're having a go at bloody. I mean, yes, Keir Starmer is a liberal lefty twat. Yes, fine, but at least he's doing baby steps towards lowering immigration, which you never did. You just consistently you come up with some damn plan, like, oh yeah, this week we're going to do the Rwanda plan. And it's like, okay, are you? And then basically they string it along in the headlines for 18 months and then suddenly decide, on some technicality, it's not actually feasible. And then before that, it was something I can't remember. Every 18 months when they were in government, they had a new scheme and they were like, yes, this is going to fix migration. We're going to look into it. And then they suddenly figured out it doesn't work. So, I mean, yes. We know what Keir Starmer is. He's a son of a tool maker who definitely made a tool. But I mean, come off it, Conservatives. Right, what's this one? Every single one is the caption, and below it is a picture of deport all illegal migrants. Why are there so many illegal migrants here? It's because you put them up in hotels and you give them generous welfare. You pay people to come here, you provide them 3 meals a day, you provide them allowance, and you put them up in a hotel. That's why there's so many illegal migrants coming here. That's why and then after they've been in the hotel, Then you put them into social housing. You give them a house, and then on top of that, you were giving them indefinite leave to remain, and then you were giving them basically a pathway to citizenship. And you protect. But there's all of that, right? There's all of that, and then on top of that, even the illegal migrants, the people coming over on the boats, was a distraction. Why was it a distraction? Because the people coming over on boats are maybe 40,000 people a year, and you were letting in 1.4 million through the front door, and you wanted us to focus on the boats thing because you thought you might actually be able to do something about the boats, or at least trim it a little bit, or at least optically make it look a little bit different. The boats were never an issue. 40,000 versus 1.4 million that you let in. I've told this story before. Back when I was in finance, we were doing something with this Indian company, and we needed the Indian CEO to come over to London for a couple of weeks. And a part of getting him in, I had to write some letter to the Home Office, and in the letter I said something like, "Yeah, we need this guy for about 3 weeks tops, in and out, right?" And then he got his visa and he turned up, and I said, "Oh, you didn't have any problems, did you, with immigrations?" And he was like, "No, actually, they gave me indefinite leave to remain, right? So he can live here permanently now. I only asked for 3 weeks, but they stamped him with indefinite leave to remain, which is very easy to then turn into full citizenship." Now, this particular chap did go back because he's got a business to run in India. But the point is, if they're doing that for him, they were doing that for everybody. They opened the floodgates. They made it as easy as possible for everybody to come in. And then you're giving me this graphic with deport all illegal. Well, the illegal ones are the tip of the iceberg. It's the ones that you let in the front door. And even with the illegal ones, like I said, bloody welfare and hotels and social housing and all the rest of them. Give over, Conservatives. Right, what else have we got? Oh, here we've got Kemi Badenoch, the first-generation Nigerian immigrant who is leading the Conservative and Immigration Party. And what's she saying? She's saying 2 million immigrants. That's how many people could get British citizenship next year. Yes, because you let them in. The Conservative Party let in millions of people, millions since Brexit, and then you're and then under your own rules, after they've been here a little bit, then they can apply for citizenship. So you're complaining about something that you did while being led by a first-generation Nigerian immigrant. Brilliant. Absolutely bloody brilliant. Right, let's go on. What's this one say? Keir Starmer hasn't got a serious plan to cut immigration. It's time he stopped playing games and backed our deportations bill. What do you mean he hasn't got a serious plan? Of course he hasn't got a serious plan to cut immigration. It's all optics. But you had a serious plan to increase immigration to millions after the Brexit vote, where it was quite plain we wanted less immigration. And you gave us millions. And that was your serious plan, to open the floodgates. That's an actual quote from Boris Johnson to Dominic Cummings, his chief of staff, who has since relayed that Boris Johnson said to him, "We are opening the floodgates." As in, we want to be flooded with migrants. And you're telling us that Keir Starmer hasn't got... Of course Keir Starmer hasn't got a bloody plan. But you had a plan in the opposite direction. Well, let's have a look at this deportations bill anyway. Right, disapply the Human Rights Act from all immigrant-related matters. Yes, that is the tiniest and smallest act on this process, and then you need to begin a process of remigration of millions. Right, double the residency requirement for indefinite leave to remain. Yeah, I just told you my story about the Indian CEO, didn't I? There wasn't even a residency requirement. You were just stamping people who just came here. And so yes, the residency requirement. Yes, it should be massively stricter. It shouldn't just be a question of being here 5 years or 10 years. If you get invited in on a work visa, and in order to get in order to get residency, you beyond your work visa, you should be contributing enormous value um, and have impeccable conduct, absolutely impeccable conduct. I'm not against all immigration ever, but you want to be selective. If they're not people you would invite into your own home for dinner, then most of these people would not pass that test. It needs to be strict. Right, what else? New powers to revoke indefinite leave to remain and citizenship. Because you let in so many. You just said on the last bloody tweet, you just said that 2 million people are about to get citizenship because of you. So yes, you need the power to revoke indefinite leave to remain. You also need the power to revoke citizenship for basically everybody who's come here since Brexit. Right. What else? A legally binding cap on migration. Um, uh, no, you just need to apply standards. But if you've got some Japanese electronics engineer or something, and he wants to come in, then fine. And he's going to really add value. Fine, whatever. If you want to bring in, I don't know, Swiss bloody doctor or something, an oncologist, or yes, fine, he can come in. But yeah, it's not really a question of numbers. It's a question of standards. And if you set a number, you'll set a number like 300,000 or something, and then you'll hit the 300,000 by people who go straight onto welfare and add nothing. That's right. Visa sanctions for uncooperative countries. This is presumably visa sanctions on countries that don't take their people back. Yes, visa sanctions, and also, if necessary, send in the military to make them take back people. Right, powers to deport all foreign criminals. I mean, fine. I mean, that's actually the policy that I proposed that got me kicked out of reform. Don't even get me started on reform. Even reformers against that, but all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, they've all decided that we can. I mean, of course, you're doing that. That's the minimum that you should do. Remove GDR protections from foreign criminals. Remove GDPR in its entirety because it's a stupid bloody law. Right, mandatory scientific age testing for asylum seekers. No, we don't take any asylum seekers because the asylum seeker rules are that you have to stop at the first safe country that you come to, right? Which means you have to come through France. Is France not a safe country? Yes, it is. Therefore, we take no asylum seekers. And until there's a civil war in France, or I don't know, bloody Norway or something, or Ireland, no asylum seekers, zero. Right. What's this one? The cruelty of Keir Starmer's cut to winter fuel was laid bare this morning by new polls showing just how many pensioners rely on the payment. Okay, fine. Yes, you could describe the cuts to winter fuel as being a bit cruel by Keir Starmer, but that's because we're broke. We don't have any money. We're borrowing money. We're massive. We are well over $1 trillion in. Was it $2 trillion in debt? We are massively in debt. You put us there, and you did nothing to make because you didn't cut state spending. You didn't give us pension reforms. All the boomer gibs are still flowing freely. You're taxing us up the rectum in order to pay for a massively bloated state and welfare system. You had 14 years to address this stuff. You did none of it. In fact, you just brought in millions of non-contributing migrants who you put in social housing. Half of was it 40%, or is it half? It could be either of London social housing is occupied by first immigrants. People just arrive and they get a house, and that is expensive. And if you hadn't have done that, well, maybe we could afford to keep winter fuel allowance for the old people. Although you should reform pensions decades ago. Right, what else have we got? And we've got some Robert Jenrick here. He's saying 28 days. That's all some domestic abusers and sexual offenders will spend in prison if they're recalled. Even if the parole board considers them too dangerous to release, there is no justice in Labour's Britain. Right. Why are criminals being released? And to be fair, right, you can't really blame Labour for this. And the reason is because prisons, right, they're big and they take time to build, and you didn't build any. There's something like 85,000 prison places in this country. Why isn't it 300,000? Why? I've got, I'm not a super strict man. I think some crimes, if you commit fraud or something, you just massive fine, take your house or something. If you graffiti, some kid graffitis, he doesn't need to go to jail. You can just whip him in the center of town. There's lots of things that you don't need prison for. So I do consider myself a lenient man on this front, right? But if you burgle my house, if you make the deliberate intention to break into my house and then rifle around stealing stuff, why should you not go to prison for at least 12, 15 years? And if you don't do that, they will go and burgle somebody. It's not crime of passion, is it? It's not two guys outside a pub swinging blows and then something unfortunate happens. There is literally no excuse for burglary whatsoever. They should spend a multiple of decades in jail so that they don't then go and burgle your house after they burgled my house, right? As well as all the grooming gangs. I remember some grooming gang, not just an attendee, not just somebody who just turned up and raped children, but an organizer, a ringleader. He served something like 2 years in jail for multiple rapes of multiple children and organising other multiple rapes of other multiple children. 2 years, right? Why isn't he? Well, in fact, why isn't he shot? Right, but if we're going to do this prison thing instead of nice sensible shooting or hanging or boiling or something, why doesn't he spend his entire life in jail? How can you possibly excuse? He didn't slip up. He didn't make an error. It wasn't an oversight. Jail forever, or you kill him. Right. So and the reason that that's a problem is because you Conservatives were in power for 14 years and you didn't build any prisons. We should have 300,000 prison places and we should have gallows, right? What else? What's this one? Nigel Farage must never be Prime Minister. And then we got Rupert Lowe explaining why. Absolutely right. Can't fault this one. Yeah, very good. But it's Rupert Lowe saying it, not you. And I see you're getting Rupert Lowe to speak for you. Well, in fact, why don't we just vote for Rupert Lowe's new party when that pops up in the? Well, not that I've heard anything, but perhaps that might be popping up soon. What's this one? Oh, they've decided to do a meme, a Jaws themed meme, which is tax, and there's Rachel Reeves below the water. Oh yes, how scary. Yes. Rachel Reeves is indeed a tax and spend socialist, as the Labour Party is. Also, like the Conservative Party is. The Conservative Party raised taxes in this country to the highest level since the Second World War. The Conservatives did. Not Labour, the Conservatives did that. Because you brought in millions of immigrants and you refused to reform the welfare state. Right, that's why taxes have reached the point where if you put up taxes any higher, all they will do is lower the tax take because you are so heavily disincentivizing people from working. And we were already at and beyond that limit under the last Conservative government. So don't give me this. Right, what else? This makes for uncomfortable reading for working people and businesses across Britain. Is Rachel Reeves going to saddle us with even more taxes? Oh, it's like I said, it's irrelevant at this point because you pushed up taxes so high that further tax rises will just lower the tax take, and that's on you. What do we got? Starmer is making an effort, but this will not stop the boats. People will still try their luck knowing they can stay in Britain if granted asylum, so it won't get rid of asylum hotels in the UK. Yeah, oh, for God's sakes, who set up that? Who was it that went round the country offering hotels millions of pounds and a free refit if they took in asylum seekers? Oh, that was the Conservative government. Don't give me this. Right. What's going on here? Ah, right. This one. So this this clip, if you haven't seen it, maybe I can play a bit of it.
Maybe they give me house, they give me anything I can need. They give me.
So this is basically a clip. Was it Patrick Christie? From, presumably this is GB News. I don't watch TV, but he goes to one of these asylum camps, and he meets this guy, and he basically says, "Give me a house, give me a house, give me money." Which is, you know, to be perfectly blunt, that's how Africa works. You know, just is all gimme dat. So he goes and speaks to this guy, and he wants all of this stuff. And the Conservatives, right? The Conservatives are being critical of this. You know, they're trying to pretend that they are, you know, opposed to this sort of thing. I have more respect for that immigrant there, right? Because what that immigrant wants is open borders and free stuff given to migrants. And he seems, perhaps on an intellectual level or otherwise, he seems incapable of lying. He just comes out and says it: open borders, free stuff for migrants, right? The Conservatives want the exact same thing. They want open borders and free stuff to migrants, but they lie about it. They tell you they want the opposite, but they're lying. They want the same thing as that guy there. The only difference is that guy there is honest and you are liars. God, I hate them so much. Right, what's this one? Oh, if Labour was serious, they'd back our plan to fix Britain's broken immigration system. No, if Labour was serious, they would arrest every member of the Conservative Party for crimes against this country. We've already talked about that, Bill. What's this one? Labour wants to let dangerous criminals free. We talked about prison spaces. It's your fault. Right, what else have we got? Chris Phillips MP, no, you haven't. Most of those left. You talk about Keir Starmer's claim to have returned 24,000 people. And he's saying most of them left voluntarily without government involvement. Only a tiny fraction arrived by boats. Yes, again, well, I mean, that I don't think is making the point that you think it's making, Conservatives, because yes, we know that a tiny fraction of our immigration problem is people who came on boats. They're almost entirely people who you just let in through airports and boats, proper boats like boat ports. You just, most of them by airports. You just let them in. Right, what have we got here? Oh, they're returning to Nigel Lowe again. Yes, because Nigel Lowe is more popular than any Conservative. And here he's saying Nigel Farage is no leader. He's a coward and a viper. Yes, Rupert Lowe is correct. But that's why I want to vote for Rupert Lowe whenever he does whatever he's going to do. And I have no interest in ever voting Conservative ever again. Right. Oh, look, it's Robert Jenrick again. Why are we getting more Robert Jenrick on the Conservative Party page when he's just a Conservative MP? Why are we not getting Kemi Badenoch? Is it possibly because he's the only one who talks some vague sense, but you didn't elect him leader? You voted in as leader a first generation Nigerian immigrant to lead the the Conservative Party. But why aren't you featuring her? Is it because you figured out that possibly that was not the most sensible move you could? So yes, they're putting Robert Jenrick again up on the timeline because they correctly surmise that he was obviously the better choice. But it doesn't matter to me. They can put in Jenrick tomorrow. I've been betrayed by the Conservative Party my entire life, and when I did some digging, I realised that they betrayed every other voter throughout their entire history. So yes, that doesn't work for me. What do we? Oh, here we go. We are calling for a full national inquiry into the rape gangs. You had 14 years, right? 14 years, and you didn't do this. You let this go on. It's going on to this day. You haven't been deporting the Pakistani community who did this. No, you've done nothing at all. So and now you got a petition, have you? Like the Girl Scouts. Oh, will you sign our petition? No, do one. Right. What else have we got? There they are. This is a clip. So the ladies and gentlemen, I give you our Prime Minister. They're basically. This is a clip where Keir Starmer was a barrister saying, questioning some evidence for a guy who later just admitted that he did whatever it was that he did. I mean, knowing Keir Starmer, he was probably a kiddie fiddler, because that's the type of person that Keir Starmer particularly enjoyed representing for whatever reason. I don't know why. I find it difficult to really blame Keir Starmer here, because the legal system basically demands that the barrister gives the best possible defence. That's how our legal system works. I don't like Keir Starmer. I don't like the type of people that he gravitated towards defending, but you can't really blame him for that. So, and yes, Keir Starmer is prat, isn't he? Right, here we go. Dangerous criminals being released onto British streets. Oh, here we go. Yes, Labour unemployment. Labour isn't working. Oh, God's. Hey, Onig, I'm not going to go any further with this, because I'm just going to continue to get agitated by these bloody people. In fact, let's try and close off on a more positive note. This is an oldie but a goodie. As you know, here at Lotus, we were strong proponents of the 0 seats campaign. Now, unfortunately, we didn't achieve it at the last election, but I'm very much hoping that we can do a double tap on the Conservative Party, and next election we will get them 0 seats, because that is the precise number of seats that they deserve to get. So I'm just going to round off on this video, take us back to almost a year ago at the general election, the 0 seats campaign.
So we better get started. First, with our exit poll, which even now I can't reveal until Big Ben strikes. 10, remember this is an exit poll, very carefully calculated, not necessarily on the nail. But here it is, 10 o'clock. And we are saying that the Conservative Party have won 0 seats. Rishi Sunak has led the most successful and tenacious political party in history into oblivion.
We have just received word that David Cameron has entered such a deep state of shock that he has not brought up gay marriage in 5 whole minutes.